Hello and welcome to this tutorial that will teach you how to create a custom character for Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution. So, firstly, what are we trying to change? To change and create a custom character, we're looking at to create 4 things. 1, we need to change the name of the character when we load into the duel. 2, we need to change the picture on the mission select screen, like you can see here. The second thing we're looking at to do is we want to change the picture of the character in the pre-duel screen and the picture of the character during the duel screen. The other thing we want to do is include the character in the duel. The first thing we're going to want to do is to create our character so the game knows what to look for. With this, you need to open your char data editor and then open up your char data file. So if you go File, Open, and then scroll down, and then you go into your YGO 2020 folder, down to Main, and char data E. That's English. If you're in a different language, select that language accordingly. So, now that we've opened up our char data, we want to create a new character. To do this, we go Edit, Add a char slot. Now, there's a few key features here and things that we need to fill out that is very important. Firstly, series ID. This is pretty straightforward. What series do you want your character to belong to? Next up, challenge deck ID. This is the deck that will show up for the challenges. Whether or not that character is playable, I would recommend just ticking that. The arena for when you duel them. In this case, I want arena 3. This doesn't necessarily matter unless when you challenge them, you want a specific arena to show up. The ID string, this one is quite important. This is the character's name, the ID. So this is how all the files are found. In this case, I want SJ to be my ID string. It's just something easy for me to remember for later. Keep track of this name. So the ID string. Next up is the name. What do you want your duelist to be called? So when the game loads up and you're in the duel, what name will show up down the bottom? In this case, I want Spell Caster's Judgment, which is the name of the structure deck from this mod. So I always like to do this because I'm weird. I go previous and next just to be sure that it's all saved. Once that's done and you've got your character made and all filled out here, you go File, Save, and scroll down to your char data E and hit save. It's always good to make a backup of all your files. Now your character exists within the game files. You can include them in the duel, but we need to have accompanying imagery. Otherwise they will just show up as a blank in the portrait as well as in the pre-duel menu. The next thing we're going to want to modify is the bust. The bust is the easiest thing to modify with this mod, and it's what shows up in the pre-duel segment. So when you do the scissors, paper, rock. To find the bust folder, we open YGO 2020, and then we open the bust zip. You'll see in this folder there is an icon for just about every character, and they all are ended with ._neutral. They are a PNG file, and they are 512 by 512 pixels. Always good to make sure you have the same ratio for everything. So to do this, I would recommend selecting one, probably whichever one starts at first, and copying it and pasting. Then opening Photoshop or an equivalent program and editing it there. In this case, I've already picked this lovely fella here, and I want to make this my icon, which is currently a JPEG and in the wrong dimensions. So I've opened Photoshop. What I'm going to do, I'm going to drag, drop in, resize it accordingly, and there we go. Hit the tick, file, export, make sure that's in all the right settings, export. In this case, I'm going to tutorial video, and I'm going to call it, and I got to refer back here, SJ_neutral. Neutral. I'm going to have a problem as my pre-duel picture is got the same file name. So I'm just going to end it with 1, and I have to remember to change that later. Okay. Now the file is ready and prepared for the bust. What I'm going to do is simply drag and drop it into the bus zip. And get rid of that one. Make sure you call your files neutral. I'm just going to change it to lowercase. I don't believe there's a reason to, but I just want to be consistent. Now, the icon will show up in the pre-duel segment. So, the next step we want to do is get the little icon that appears in the UI when we are in the duel. To create this icon, we need to go to YGO 2020, PDUI, and we have two files we need to edit. Cars DFYMOO and the cars image. Now, my cars image looks a little bit different to how yours will look because I've already started modding. Because yours should look like this, minus the blackluster soldier here. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to get an image, our portrait that we want to be, and place it in this file. Once it's placed in the file, okay, we then have to tell the computer which part of the image it is located in. And that's where this cars DFYMOO comes in. Now, first problem you're going to run into is this image, the original, does not have much space. I would recommend extending it or moving it to a larger image in Photoshop, which is exactly what I've done. I've added this extra bottom down here. Now, zoom in to where you want your image to be. I would also recommend taking note of the dimensions of another portrait so you can work from there so you haven't got something overly massive. In this case, I'm going to get my Dark Eradicator Warlock, and I'm going to drag it in, and to make sure it's the same size, I'm going to place it over the top of this lovely cat lady here. And it should be about 130. Roundabout. Yes. I'm going to place it just below here. Now, that's not where this ends, because I need to take note of this file's position. So, if we look up the top right here in Photoshop in the info panel, notice that it says 131.2227. I need to remember these coordinates. I'm now going to edit the cars DFYMOO. Right click, edit with Notepad+. Bring Notepad+ over. Now, when you first open this file, you're going to notice you need to change one thing. You need to adjust this to the new dimensions of your new car's image. So in this case, these numbers won't be what they are. You need to get the width and height of your image so it can work properly. Once you've got that, scroll down to the bottom, enter N, which is the name of your character. In this case, I've got SJ, and it requests that you have underscore neutral afterwards. And now I need to do the coordinates. And the SJ, that comes from my, again, character name here, the ID string. So the coordinates for this is 131.2227, 131.2227, 131.2227. And then it asks for the dimensions of your image, which is here, and I can see width and height, 130 by 130, because I made them the same. To finish off this line, press Shift and get that lovely squiggly line, and now hit save. That will override your old car's DFYMOO, and now the computer knows where to find it in the image. I got one more step. I need to save the image. So, once you're all done organizing everything, getting in place, export as, choose where to save it. And if you're unsure where to get the height, in Photoshop you can get it from the image size here. So that's the bit that goes at the top of your DFYMOO. I'm just going to save it over my old cars in this folder. And now that's done and saved, I'm going to put this new file in the pre-duel UI. Place file on this destination. Done. Now the game knows where it's located, as well as has the ability to access it. And that's how you change the portrait in the duel. Okay, So this is just about our last step, and it is putting the file that is going to appear in the mission select screen into the Duel. So open YGO 2020, PDUI, and you'll see dialogue cars. It's going to look for the neutral one. So whichever one set as neutral, it will go for. If you look at my previous example, if we go down to S, yeah, there's starter deck Joey, neutral here. So how do we get to that state? Well, the first thing we need to do is make our file. I would recommend picking one from here, probably someone starting with an early letter in the alphabet, opening that in Photoshop, and dragging your new image over the top and editing accordingly, which I have already done to save you that time of watching me doing that. Then we just have to drag and drop it into the files. SJ neutral is now here. However, there is still another step, because when we go to compress, we will not actually have access to this file. The game won't read it and it will get all confused and you'll get nothing, which means we need to edit the talk. To do that, go back to where you've got all your modding stuff located in your main game files. Go to the one, not your test, but your actual original YGO 2020 that's in those files where you're compressing and extracting and all that, and edit that talk. Go edit with Notepad. Now, mine's already preloaded here to where I need to be, but I would recommend scrolling all the way down or finding your PDUI. Makes it very quick. Start a new line. Pick a random number, 00. You don't need these other numbers on the left, and we need to tell the game files where to locate this particular image. So I'm going to copy from the one above as it's easy, and I'm going from PDUI, dialog cars, and now I'm going to call it SJ, it's capitalized, underscore neutral dot PNG. I would recommend using Notepad++. It's a lot better than Notepad for finding things. Okay, then I hit save, and now when I compress, the game will know where to find that file. Okay, for the last step in this tutorial, we need to actually put in our character into the Duel. So make sure that the mission aligns with the character. To do that, we open the Duel Data Editor. Then we need to open our Duel Data file. This is the file with all the data for the duels and all the missions for the game. Then we need to find our mission. In this case, I'm going to Zexel. As soon as I find it, takes a little bit to find it in these cases. I believe I saw it there. Nope. Okay. Usually I just find the first one, and we want, in this case, Spellcaster's Judgment versus Lord of the Storm. I've already renamed this one. And we need to set our character ID. To find the character ID, go back to the program where you were editing the character, and you'll see it right here. In this case, 202 SJ. So the character ID on the left will be 202. Once you've selected that, it's going to correct a quick grammatical error I've got. Once you've set it as 202 and you've got your correct number, hit save. Save it over your old Duel Data E, and you're done. Now the step from here is we've given the game all the files, we've set up the character, we need to then compress again as always. Okay, now it is compressed. We do the usual rename. And let's see how we went. So, now when we open up the single player, we should see that when I go down to my Spellcaster's Judgment Duel, that we have our new icon. Okay, Dark Eradicator Warlock has been written into the TOC and we've added this file. When we click the button to load the duel, we'll be able to load into the story deck and you'll see that in the pre-duel, the bust will be loaded in. So the bust.zip. That's the bust.zip at the top left here. So we've actually loaded the file in. We unfortunately lose scissors, paper, rock because we are useless and not very good at this game. And when we load into the game, you'll see in the bottom left here, we have our character icon, which is the one that we modded in to the char file and the char.dmfu, the DFYMOO. I can never remember the name of the file type. I hope this tutorial has been helpful. If you're curious about anything that you've seen, feel free to pop a question in the comment. Have a good one. As I said, any questions, comment, I'll reply.